The wait is over. After some extended time off, the SBS podcast is back to its regularly scheduled programming. As today we talk that massive win over Wisconsin on Tuesday, more specifically, the big Spaniard, Aday Mara's insane coming out party, and other key contributors in that win as well. We go down a bit of a passion-driven rabbit hole about the issues of Poly Pavilion's game day atmosphere and how we ourselves plan to fix it. Then we look ahead to UCLA's next few upcoming games and how we expect the Bruins to fare and everything in between. So let's get into it, baby. Okay, first one since Gonzaga.
Yeah, it's lots happened.
Been a while.
Gonzaga recap, that is. And when was that? The 29th? The 30th?
Yeah, it was before the new year.
Embrace debate, referring to UCLA's win over Wisconsin. Is this UCLA's best win of the season?
This is actually funny we have this as a topic because driving home last night listening to 570, I was just thinking to myself that this is honestly one of the more satisfying wins in Cronin's era, I honestly think. I just feel like after the 4-game stretch that we had, I mean, so many fans were down in the dumps. There were so many questions around this team, the guards, and like it almost felt like that run of the football season where you just sort of lost a little bit of hope and you just sort of felt like a little numb to another loss. And I just think beating a Wisconsin team that shoots 50% from three, makes 15 threes, and you can still beat them. And then speaking of the Aday Mara performance, you get that out of him. It finally felt like this team had sort of, regained its confidence. And it was, I would even put it to, one of the bigger wins in Mick Cronin's tenure at UCLA.
Wow. So, yes, Kyle says biggest win of the season.
By far.
You mentioned that fans were down in the dumps. It's our first episode of the new year, and that's because Keon and I tried recording last week when things were at DEFCON 1 and shit was completely hitting the fan. And I'm glad that didn't successfully record because once we finished recording, we realized the SD card was full, and that is why we have taken an extended hiatus from the SBS podcast. But as of last week, before this 2-game stretch that the Bruins are now on, winning both games against Iowa and Wisconsin, and just with everything that went on in the press with Mick and just losing 4 out of 5 after starting so hot, I did not think that UCLA's prospects for the rest of the season looked good at all, or even really just the bigger picture of UCLA under Mick Cronin. And that was not just restricted to Keon and I. It was throughout the UCLA universe on Twitter. Yep. People were not happy, but now a win like that is a great way to remedy that and get things back on course.
I think it's a big win because of the timing of everything. Wisconsin's a good team. They're ranked. It's a ranked home win, all of that, yeah. But like both of you said, it's kind of almost like a hard reset on the season. We had a really rough stretch of it was just not only what were they losses, they were just bad basketball. It wasn't enjoyable to watch by any stretch of the imagination. And then you have the Iowa win, which I felt good. I mean, we were glancing over an Iowa win that was dominant from tip-off. Yep. But Wisconsin is a better team than Iowa, and to kind of get in those streaky games that we're known for, and we've had a few of this season, but to kind of weather that despite the last few of those games not going our way and putting up a couple defensive stops to win the game and seal the game despite, some big shots from Wisconsin. It was good to see. It was a nice vote of confidence back from me, from the team. And I feel like Mick Cronin, I hope, finally has broken through this like wall and with Aday and with the lineup to hopefully get these kids gelling.
Yeah, and you take a look at the other wins on UCLA's resume. The Arizona one's aging well. They won 7 straight after the UCLA loss. They've won 8 of their last 9 with the win over West Virginia. Ken Palm has them ranked at number 16. You could argue Oregon is, I mean, I know we're very high on the Wisconsin, but Oregon is still proving to be a big one. A conference road win ranked. The Ducks are 26th on Ken Palm. The Wisconsin win, though, I think is so big because that Gonzaga win is not, I don't think, is going to end up being a quad 1 win on UCLA's resume. I believe they went back-to-back losses, one to Santa Clara. Like, I've got buddies I used to smoke pot with that played at Santa Clara. That's like a high school team. Then they lost, I believe, to Oregon State. So this was a big win because UCLA, they still have a long way to go prior to March. But we say all the time on this show, you got to build that resume. And this was a big one that is seemingly replacing Gonzaga, who's completely fallen off the rails. Sweetest thing about this win, I think, is it's been very clear what UCLA's problems have been, or at least the biggest two problems, because they've had plenty of them. I think number one is kind of the question mark under the basket. UCLA not having a true number 5, a true center. You're having Tyler Bilodeau play in a position to really kind of take up the majority of the minutes under the basket. And then the guard play. Dylan Andrews having one of the worst slumps of his career, certainly at UCLA, and just not enough contributions from Sebastian Mack and Sky Clark. But both of those parts of the game seemingly came together for UCLA against Wisconsin most dramatically at the number 5 spot. So let's start with talking about the big fella, Aday Mara, having a career day, setting multiple career highs with 22 points and 21 minutes, which is also a career high for the young Spaniard. So is it safe to say that UCLA has found its big man? Kyle, starting with you again.
I'm praying because, I mean, I've been calling for Aday Mara to get more minutes. You know, he's shown spurts throughout this season, but he hasn't really got that extended time in the real game. And, you know, in Cronin's presser yesterday, he mentioned he does this in practice all the time. He looks down at the stat sheet and Mara's, 7 for 9 or 11 for 12 or whatever it is. And it's the Big Ten. I think we sort of found it out the hard way those first 4 games that you can't play Tyler Bilodeau at the 5. It's just impossible.
Yep.
It's going to eat at his offensive production. But even if Mara doesn't score, which thankfully last night we got tons of production from on the offense end, he's just such a force down low.
Yeah.
You saw Wisconsin just completely unable to box him out, completely unable to even, handle getting boards against him. He literally just, and then that move where, he stepped through, put a pump fake up, and then dunked it with the left hand. I literally shouted, I've been waiting for this exact moment for a year and a half.
Yeah, man.
So it was awesome. It was great to see. I'm super happy for him. And I think the team sort of fed off that a little bit. Like, you got one of your guys that you're in the gym with every day and really hasn't found his groove yet. And then all of a sudden, the crowd's behind him. He comes out of the game and gets a huge ovation. I think the team fed off that throughout the game. It was really cool to see.
Well, dude, I think a problem that UCLA has had with highly touted big men coming out of high school, or in this case, like a Spanish pro league, wherever the fuck he's from, is having kind of that timid, tall, skinny guy. The Moses Browns, that comes to mind. I felt like we had gotten that so far with the Aday Mara. So what I'm most excited about is for this to be his coming out party, something as drastic as that, like quadrupling his career high at UCLA points-wise. If that can get him to now play with a bit of fucking arrogance and some swagger under the basket and really just kind of throw fucking hips around and play like an assertive big man, I think just a confidence boost and a change in like his mentality, I think could be huge for UCLA because he was timid up till this point. It was a different guy out there.
Well, Ross, it's funny you say that because there was a point, I think it was, probably after his 4th field goal made, and he was at this point starting to feel it. He posted up on the left side of the post, just got the ball on the block, and he goes left-handed, just palm of the basketball.
Yeah, I saw that on the broadcast.
And shows the basketball, and right away I go, oh, this dude is fucking feeling it right now.
Well,
and then I'm pretty sure he scored with the right hook on that same possession.
Well, he also completely mean mugged the guy after he yammed on him. On that step through, like that sweet pivot, and then he had the one-handed dunk. Completely stared the guy down. I didn't know Aday Mara had that nasty side to him, but we're certainly seeing it. I mentioned that he quadrupled his previous career high. That's not technically true because that previous career high was 16 points against Lehigh. So if you exclude those early season cupcakes, came close to what comes after quadruple. Is it pentupled?
Yeah.
Almost pentupled his career high. And to me, that doesn't really sound like a guy coming into his own. That sounds like someone that's finally being unleashed and, given the minutes that he deserves. And Kyle, you said earlier that you've been yapping about wanting to see more minutes out of Mara. So have all of the fans on any online forum or what have you. he was a big factor in the Gonzaga game that Mick Cronin alluded to in his own press conference. So it's kind of just like we've been, as the fans, the couch coaches have been clamoring for him, and then we finally get him, and look what happens. He scores 22 points and wins us the game.
Yeah, a lot of, the points are obviously huge, but exactly what you said, Ross. I think the minutes are probably the biggest reason why he should have confidence moving forward, because Cronin trusted him in this game, and I think that was a new thing for Cronin this season with the constant lineup changes that he were used to. He kind of let him play a little bit, and he especially let Mara play. He had the 22 points. He was great from the field, but he did make some mistakes on the defensive side. You could see, I saw Kobe Johnson pushing him into sets on defense a couple times, but Cronin trusted it. Cronin, allowed his guys to play through it, and he got his 21 minutes instead of the 12 to 15 that he's used to. So if this is something to go off of, I hope Aday can feel the confidence from his team, from his coaches, from the fans, and maybe get some similar minutes in other big games.
I mean, when could you, let's say he continues with the minutes that he's allotted, he continues to play at this level, or at least with spitting distance of this level, could we see a shift to UCLA or a mix-up to UCLA's starting line at mid-season, or is that, someone tell me, is that just coaching
I think
taboo?
that, I think that you could. I don't think that Cronin will. I think that, he's going to continue to go 4 deep off the bench, 5 deep off the bench. Perry didn't get any minutes last night. So typically we're 10 deep off the bench. Last night we were 9. But Eric Daly, saw his minutes drop. Obviously, he was in some foul trouble. Everyone was in foul trouble last night. That game was ridiculously officiated.
Crazy.
But either Daly or Bilodeau's minutes are just going to get more rest. I think when they're on the court, they're going to be more productive. They're going to be better rested. It's just not feasible to continue with the lineup that we've been continuing without a 5 in this conference. During that 4-game stretch, we saw it. It was so apparent, especially on the road, when things start to speed up and guys maybe get a little more tired easier and things of that nature. So Cronin's gonna have to just continue to like Keon said, just trust it. You got to just trust it. You saw what could happen in a real live game against a top 25 opponent. This wasn't, going back to Ross's point, this isn't against Lehigh. This is against the Wisconsin Badgers, a really good top 25 team. So, and I hope Aday takes confidence from that too. This was against a really good team.
You use the word trust, and I think that's a perfect segue into talking about the guards, because another thing that was cut from the lost episode from Keon and I, the word unplayable was thrown around a lot. Kyle, who do you think we were talking about with the term unplayable?
Couldn't have been none other than Dylan Andrews.
Dylan Andrews. This is now 2 quality games in a row for the unplayable Dylan Andrews, a word that was thrown around quite liberally by Keon, myself, and the rest of UCLA Nation. But then comes the Iowa game. Everyone had a good game against Iowa, I feel like. But you saw him score in the double figures against a Big Ten opponent. Shot over 50% from the field, scoring 13 points. And then, of course, last night against Wisconsin, where he doesn't quite reach that double-figure number. He scored 9. But more importantly, I think, sets a season high and nearly matches his career high in assists with 7 on the night. Are we thinking that we've maybe reached the end of this funk of doom that we've been seeing out of Dylan Andrews?
I hope so.
I sure hope.
Yeah, we need guards as much as we want to focus on the big men, and that has been the problem because our lineup is just so small. Another thing that has been plaguing this team, and you can see it with the points that we put up, especially in all these losses, is the fact that there's no creativity on offense. There's no ball handler that's taking the ball up the court, and then you can be like, yeah, they're going to set this up for a good set on offense, and I could trust this person with the ball. Now Dylan Andrews is having a couple back-to-back games, and the next couple games aren't the most difficult.
Yeah.
So I hope that everybody, Dylan Andrews, Mara, but specifically Dylan Andrews, can continue to get in his bag a little offensively and kind of feel it and be okay with shoveling off a few assists and attacking the basket and maybe getting a foul.
I'll tell you what, the one thing that I noticed over the past couple of games from Dylan Andrews is the way he's utilizing the pick and roll system. The way he had been utilizing it in, the first, let's just call it 12 games or whatever it was very predictable. And you see him now, he's, using that pick and roll to the strong side, and then he's playing off at weak side, and then he's even splitting the coverage at times. which I hadn't seen them do that probably since last year. So he's a little bit more creative, and he's just looking a little quicker, a little more active, and just a little bit more shifty in how he's handling the ball at the top of the key and trying to facilitate. And he was never trying to get downhill in the previous, let's call it 12, 14 games. You can see him actively trying to get downhill to the basket. And when a point guard gets downhill to the basket, people converge, opens up shots for other guys. So, and that leads to assists. So 7 assists is something that you love to see out of your guard. And I think, you can't talk about last night without talking about Sebastian Mack. 24 minutes, 6 for 12. Is absolutely, I called it bulldozing his way into the paint.
He took. I know. We want to talk about Mara and how he took over the game, but I feel like the actual takeover of the game took place with Sebastian Mack just walking into the paint at will.
At will, and I mean, he's not the best shooter. He's 0 for 3 from 3-point, but when he can get to the foul line, I mean, and he shot great. It was 7 for 8. Aday Mara shot it great. I mean, if those two struggled at the foul line last night, we don't win the game.
Yeah.
Mara was 8 for 11, and Sebastian Mack was 7 for 8.
Yeah, over 70% from Mara. Is he naturally his stroke is pretty nice.
His stroke is nice. I don't think he's naturally that high, but I mean, if he shoots it the way he did last night, and probably a lot of that was just feeling it confidence-wise, but it's a nice stroke. It's nothing like our buddy William Kyle's.
If you're 7'3", like no way it's naturally you're going 70 to 80% from the line.
Dude, I know it's not really like a pretty style of basketball when Sebastian or I think they call him Bass. Let's start picking that up. When Bass starts just like putting his head down and like full backing his way into the paint. But at least it's like a plan B. Not like they needed it last night.
Yeah.
But I think against the right team that doesn't exactly have a whole lot of answers for it defensively, aside from just fouling, which is what took place for the entirety of the second half, like the final 10 minutes. It was just all fouls on Sebastian Mack. So, like, if the shots aren't falling, it's not like how you want to, like, run your offense, but at least UCLA knows that there's a guy that's going to be able to just draw fouls and get you to the line, especially down the road when you're in the bonus.
Yeah.
Just kind of lock in, like, a few cheap, easy points like
there's
that.
There's games that are specifically tailored to Sebastian Mack's game. And Cronin's got to realize that early on. You know the refs. You know how the refs officiate. If you have refs like last night, it's heavily favored in the game plan to, hey, Mack's going to get downhill and try and get to the line because the whistle's going to get called.
Are you suggesting UCLA becomes whistle merchants? Because I'm kind of fucking down. Fuck it, dude. I love seeing the Wisconsin fans.
They were such.
But like, dude, if the refs are calling the game that way, then approach the game differently. They did nothing differently the whole time.
Refs the same ref for both teams.
Yeah.
But the Ross, to your point on the plan B, I think that's a great way to put it. A lot of times through this stretch, UCLA's offense has been stagnant and hasn't worked, and there wasn't a plan B.
It's the patented Mick Cronin lid on the basket.
Yeah. And then it's like, you know what it feels like when you have like that 3-year-old like niece or nephew, and they have the game with the shapes, and they're trying to bash the square shape into the circle hole or something. Yeah. That's how it almost felt like at times. But this was having Sebastian Mack or having some sort of fail-safe where it's like, okay, this offensive set isn't working.
Panic button.
Exactly. Fuck it, bro. You get to the line. You put 2. I'll take it, man.
Yeah.
Or even they're scared of fouling and you get an easy layup, maybe an and one, whatever. Like you need that sometimes.
Before we move on from guards, I don't want it to go unacknowledged. Sky Clark's pure clutchness at the line. I think he missed one
on purpose.
Was that the only one he missed?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's 3 for 4.
How many times is this guy going to be put in a position to ice a game, and he goes 2 for 2?
And the first time that the 2 for 2 was his first free throws of the game.
Free throws of the game.
Win the game.
He had knocked down 1 or 2 threes earlier. Mm-hmm. He played a good game.
Yeah.
All the guards played a good game. But this is like the 3rd or 4th time we've seen Sky Clark asked to walk up to the line under the most pressure you could apply a fucking point guard, and he knocks down both. Yep. So far in every single situation, aside from the one where he missed one. So if I'm doing game ball, I think Mara's like, I like being different. I kind of like the guy that like
Ross
wants to show how much he knows ball. So he just like I think I did like for like defensive player of the year for football. It's probably like, give me Who is the no? Give me Devin Uphew. You guys don't understand the effect that Devin Uphew had opening
It's
up
a
the
domino effect.
No,
I think I had some questionable ones in football season as well.
yeah, but my off-brand game ball for last night is going to Sky Clark.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He led the team in plus minus.
Oh, there you go. See, I know ball.
Led the team in rebounds and had 4 assists.
Yeah, I mean, and we got to get to this foul problem though. And yesterday was
Like them fouling out.
yeah. We had 2 major players foul out. We had Bilodeau and Kobe Johnson foul out, and then William Kyle stepped up in a big way, replacing Bilodeau. But this isn't the first game that we've had major key players having 4 fouls. There was stretches I remember where Bilodeau wouldn't play in the second half because he was already at 3. Eric Daly's been known to have foul trouble.
Kobe Johnson.
Kobe Johnson's been known to have foul trouble. This is the refs were terrible yesterday, but you're going to come up against terrible refs in close games and stuff like this. This is all going to happen in the course of like a 30-game season.
Yeah.
You got to be a little more disciplined than knowing you have 4 fouls and they're coming at you. Even if it's not a foul, like you sometimes just got to let them go.
If I'm not mistaken, all 5 of Tyler Bilodeau's fouls came in the second half. He had 0 at the half, which is insane.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jeez. I just unfortunately think that this is just the nature of the way that Mick Cronin coaches his teams to play.
That's kind of what I was going to say.
I mean, it's always sort of been a thing, and you're gonna have guys reaching in. You're gonna have guys, taking that extra effort to, get the loose ball and things like that. So, I think with a Mick Cronin coach team, especially with a lot of these guys coming from places that defense wasn't really a big thing, and they're still learning how to try and play, defense under Cronin. Foul trouble is always going to be an issue, but at the same time, like I will say, like last night was over the top. Like there were some fouls called in that game, even against Wisconsin, that I was like the Dylan Andrews pull up jumper that got called for an and one. I was like, that is one of the worst calls I've ever seen.
Honestly, dude, given UCLA's defensive style and the way the game was being called last night, for all those foul outs to happen in like the final 2 minutes, I'll almost call it like a dub. Like, fuck it.
Yeah.
We won the game, and we got most of our minutes out of our guys. And that officiating crew was baloney. And I think one of them is a former Pac-12 guy. And there were so many people at Poly last night.
There you go.
I thought we left this behind in the Pac-12. And I'm like, honestly, that's exactly what this feels like. Turns out one of the 3 was a Pac-12 guy. So there you go. Jeez. And speaking of Poly Pavilion, Kyle, you were there, as was I. Mm-hmm. Keon couldn't make it. Okay, also, I want to fucking Keon, what got into you yesterday? Why weren't you at the game?
My apartment's garage door came down on the back of my car. So I have a Jeep. So
why didn't you Uber?
Yeah, right, exactly. I was with a shop vac on my garage floor cleaning up all the glass. So yeah, it's about a $7,000 repair job.
We should just take the ad revenue we get from the SBS pod and cover your shit out of pocket. Good
thing
State
those
Farm,
BME
please,
shirts are a hit.
Yeah.
Final attendance figure for last night, Poly Pavilion against Wisconsin, 6,695. That is right around 50%, almost a clean half full, half empty arena, however you want to look at it. And anyone that's listened to this show knows that I'm as tough on UCLA fans as anyone, and I've got my fair share of opinions about just the overall culture for Bruin athletics. But Tuesday at 6:30 p.m. in Los Angeles, I just don't know what any team in LA is going to attract anything more than a partially full stadium without being like a absolute contender.
Yeah.
It took me. I live 4 miles away.
Yeah.
I'm in Mar Vista.
Took you 40
minutes.
minutes
It took me
to get there,
close to 40 minutes to get there, and that's just one UCLA fan that happens to live basically in the neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
40 minutes.
Yeah, it took me an hour 15. Took me an hour 15 from Pasadena. But Ross, I'm gonna have to go out on a limb. We say we don't disagree on this channel very often, but I disagree. I think that UCLA fans have it in them, and I know they do because we had over 11,000 on a Tuesday night at 7 p.m. versus Michigan just a couple weeks ago.
Hey, those 30 minutes are important. I think 7 p.m. is It helps, but go on.
You really think it makes that much of a difference?
No. But at the time, UCLA had not fallen off a cliff, and I would call them a contender. Not a contender.
Like, they could have won the conference at that
It
point.
it was a top 25 matchup, but I will say
A lot of Michigan fans, too, to
that
count in
attendance. No, that attendance stemmed from the students, dude. The students section was overflow. There were
Yeah.
students in my section like crazy, and I was middle. I was like 206 or something like that. No, nowhere near the student section. They were just sending students wherever they could find open seats. So I don't know what the students did that game. If there was like a specific challenge involved, I know they were doing that, or like their gift cards. But the students, man, they had to be, at least 4,000 of that.
Well, it wasn't a bad student turnout last night.
Last night, yeah.
I'm just wondering, like, what's a better alternative than the current setup that UCLA has? Is it more Thursdays, or is it possible, which I feel like it absolutely should, Martin Jarman, to negotiate next year's TV schedule and our time slot allotment to more weekends? If we're traveling however many more miles than the other Eastern schools, why is that UCLA is being shafted to fucking Tuesdays at 6:30 in LA? Can we not leverage how much distance we have to cover? Okay, well then fine. Then we are playing on Saturdays and Sundays for at least for like half of our home games.
Yeah, like a Thursday, Saturday split.
Thursday, Saturday, Sunday.
Yeah.
No Tuesdays.
Yeah.
And if it is Tuesday, it's 7 or 7:30.
Yeah.
Come on.
Because you're alienating the argument against it, just to play, is you're alienating the Wisconsin TV fans. But I think they're going to watch anyway, regardless. But Kyle, I'm with you on the students. It's week 3. There's nothing going on. I think the students should come out more for this.
Yeah.
But yeah,
what are you doing in week 3?
Yeah,
like, week 3 is
on a
nothing other
Tuesday
than
too.
playing
It's
Fortnite.
like
I didn't go to class, dude, until like week 8. And
yeah.
Maybe we're not the best examples for academic
and I will
performance, but
I will say this: despite what was a half full arena last night, I thought it was actually kind of an engaged, slightly louder than normal poly crowd. I don't know if you saw this, Kyle, but Ben Hallen was there, section 104, and he
wooden seat.
He was getting the crowd to stand up. He was turning around and telling people, stand up, make noise. What are you guys doing? We need to stop.
Yeah.
And it worked.
he looks so much old.
He aged.
He aged. For all of us, when we were watching the Ben Howland Final Four runs, I remember what he looked like, and seeing him, I think a couple of years ago for the first time when he showed up to a MIC practice, I was like, oh.
He could use like 10 more pounds and a tan. But I'm not going to come up here and body shame Ben Howland, because I love that man and I have a very soft place in my heart for him. But my question is this. Why is Ben Howland the one who is taking on the duties of getting the crowd to stand?
And MIC's assistant coaches.
And the staff are waving their, Yes. What are we doing? I mean, do you remember?
It's not the Yell Crew.
There was under like 2 to go.
Don't get Ross started on the Yell Crew.
No.
Or actually, maybe get started on the Yell
I'm happy to get started on the fucking Yell Crew, if there even is one. I don't even know if that means anything anymore.
Dude.
It's under 2 minutes to go.
In like a 4-point game.
Yeah, it's a 4-point game. Under 2 to go. There's a timeout, and they choose to debut a new segment called like Bruin Ballads. And it was a sing-along to some stupid song I had never even heard of. What was the song?
Yes.
It was something slow and soft.
It was, dude, I turned around to my buddy. I go, this is the dumbest thing I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
This is the time to get something going on the speakers that's going to keep the energy in the stadium.
Get some Mr. Brightside.
Like, that is the timeout when it's like that is the timeout. Under 2, couple possession game. You can taste victory. Now it's time to play the hypest shit you have. And they literally did like Disney sing-along. Okay. Honest question here. Like I'm asking both of you, because I feel like, we're relatively well connected with the athletic department. Mm-hmm. Is there a single game day director at Pauley Pavilion that runs this live, or is this like a pre-scripted, this timeout, this is what's going to happen? Is it some pre-scheduled sort of script, or is there one guy up there calling the shots? Because if there is one guy doing this live, which there should
be fired.
Well, A, they should be fired. They are not a sports fan. B, I will do it. I will
give Ross free tickets. He'll do it. Yeah.
Oh my God, I'll do it for free. Anything. I will do that as a passion project to work with the school.
You did it at the Gonzaga game,
dude. I do it myself off of 2 Coors Lights from row 40. If you like, I'm not even serious.
No,
I'm not even kidding.
I know.
I would be more than happy to at least be. I know they don't want to give me the keys to Poly Pavilion, but to like, can I like apply to be a consultant? Because as of right now, like, it's like someone's like 7-year-old sister is doing it.
It's so bad.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
you'd think like it would be
really
better.
bad.
Like I'm sure they got a ton of feedback on it. Every Rose Bowl game I went to, and they throw up the feedback QR code. I've done it, and I've said in every single one, yell crew. Yell crew is high pitched. It's off off rhythm for the 8 clap.
Well,
it's not good. I've said this every
Horrible
time.
rhythm for the 8 clap.
Oh yeah, no,
Awful.
no. Also, scrap the. I can't believe I'm saying this.
1,
but unless
2, 3,
unless
4.
unless there is like major change to the yell crew, scrap the 8 clap.
Yeah.
Leave it to the fans that still want to do it, but the school needs to officially abandon the 8 clap because every single time it happens, and I'll be sitting near away fans or like the opposing team's fans.
They laugh at us.
They laugh. It's
Yeah.
without fail.
Yep.
They go, "What the fuck is this?"
Yeah.
The MC last night in a middle of possession, we're on defense, starts going, all right, Bruin fans, defense. And Wisconsin fans just start dying laughing.
Yeah.
Because they don't have any rhythm. Like it's slow, and also, I'm sorry, this is a hot take. Not a hot take. Might be a controversial take. Why is it always like a high-pitched girl?
It is. It's not a hot take. I agree with you.
Like, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
All PA announcers are typically dudes with deep
Yeah.
voices. And they choose like the shrillest, highest pitched girl they have without fail for the 8 claps, for the defense, for anything. And it
So
just
bad.
sounds like a joke. Is
Yeah.
it like, it's not
Yeah.
problematic to say
No.
that might be a job for a dude.
No, it's not, and it's especially at like a men's game. Like I'm fine with it if it's a women's game to have a lady doing this, but like it's come on guys.
We're
It's-
trying
it's-
to
it
build an
sounds-
intimidating home environment.
It's like a Disney. Yeah,
It is not
Yeah,
a
I
home
just-
court advantage at that point.
I just reached out to some insiders within the UCLA athletics department and asked just now, who does those game day operations, and it's typically going to fall under
Oh, we got live updates.
JMI Sports Group.
Oh,
and
it's
game day operations.
These folks took over the Learfield contract.
So
Their
it's a thir-
multimedia rights.
it's a
yeah,
third
multimedia.
party?
Yeah, every school has it.
We're paying someone to do what we saw last night?
They also sell sponsorships and stuff, but yes.
I think there are some UCLA athletics department game
Yeah,
day operations
100%.
people that work with them because everything's sponsored by someone like the Westcom.
Bruin Shuffle. I mean, the Den's a part of it. Spirit Squad, Yell Crew, all of them, they're a part of it. I mean, they're getting their from somebody. I don't think it's JMI that's totally running the. Oh, hey, let's do a Moana sing along at the 2-minute timeout.
I go to these games because I'm a UCLA basketball fan and I love the school, and I also go to them to entertain myself and have
Sure.
fun.
Yeah.
It is more fun when people stand, when the environment is loud, when you can express yourself. It is not as fun when you have to sit in your seat
And you feel like
awkward.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're the odd man out if you're trying to go into this and be and
Exactly.
contribute to the atmosphere.
And I would think that all UCLA fans are also going to these games because of those exact same reasons and to have a good time. So, I mean, like the Gonzaga game was amazing, tons of fun. The Michigan game at times during that stretch was so much fun.
Yep.
So it's hopefully, and it's going to take time, right? Like to build these things. And I will say, Ross and Keon, like what I've seen at the Wisconsin game and the Michigan game doesn't even compare to versus Washington State and Arizona State on Thursdays, right?
Yeah.
Like the environment is better, I will say, just because
Sure.
maybe we are playing these better teams. So
Yeah. All right. Let's look ahead. The Bruins have a familiar foe coming up against the Washington Huskies up in Seattle. And then they have USC, I guess, technically on the road, but back in LA. This is all leading up to what could be, if UCLA takes care of business against Washington, which I believe it should, and USC, which is certainly beatable, that would lead to, would it be a ranked matchup, a ranked rematch at Pauley? If UCLA wins 2 more, with some
don't
help
think so.
from some losses at the top of the top 25, you don't think there's a way UCLA sneaks into that at like number 25?
We might get votes. I don't think
we
we'll.
got any votes this week.
No. But I'm saying if we beat USC and Washington. That'll be 4 on the trot. I think we'll get votes. I don't think we'll be ranked. We'll be ranked if we get 5 on the trot, though.
Beat Oregon.
Yeah, it doesn't
If we
matter.
beat
I was just
Oregon,
wondering.
if we beat Oregon, we'll go into that Michigan State game ranked for sure.
And that Michigan State game's another. The Big Ten is a 8-bid conference.
Gauntlet.
Let's
10 more.
Before we talk about Michigan State, is Washington a trap game? This is an 8 p.m. tip-off in Seattle, and Washington is not a particularly good team by any stretch. And UCLA already took care of business against them earlier by double digits. Is this kind of a weird Friday game?
I was gonna say if those 4 games that we lost, we maybe went 3-1 in, then yes, it's a trap game.
Exactly.
But no, it's not. These are
every game's important.
Yeah, absolutely.
Every game's going to be important. Like, I mean, if UCLA lost last night, we're pretty much on the bubble of the NCAA tournament.
Yeah.
Like, it's you can't really at 13-6 afford to lose many games, especially against the weaker teams in the Big Ten. I mean, Washington's dead last; they're 1-7 right now in the Big Ten. So they did play Oregon pretty tough last night, late.
I saw.
I think they ended up losing by like 8 or so, but. I mean,
but it was tied going into like last 6 minutes.
You stay on the West Coast. You're going an hour and a half, 2-hour flight to Seattle, like familiar. UCLA should have no business taking care of Washington, and then, I mean, SC is always it's a rivalry game. It's interesting, and I mean we haven't fared well at the Galen Center in the past few years, but
new coach,
it's
new team.
Yeah,
I mean,
Mick really needs to be better with the USC thing, man. I think he has to have a losing record against the Trojans.
Yeah,
I fucking hate that. Like they're not a big enough factor in the world of college basketball for that to actually mean anything when looking at like Mick Cronin as like our coach. Overall, he's done a good job, but that's just one thing that like
it's one of those.
It's just
insult
always
stats. Yeah.
He just can't sweep the Trojans, and that's just like again they're not enough of a threat in college basketball for that to be like a prereq for the UCLA job, like it is like Ohio State, Michigan football. But it just, and it's always in a shitty way.
Yeah.
It's always at the last second. So, yeah, I don't think the matchup at the Galen Center is going to at all be a shoo-in. I think that's a total toss-up, 50-50, no matter what happens against Washington, no matter what happens with USC leading up to that. That has kind of been a bit of mixed kryptonite is USC at the Galen Center.
they've been playing relatively, I would say, good basketball. I mean, they beat Illinois.
Wasn't that their first
they beat Illinois
win?
on the road.
But that is a huge ranked win. I thought Illinois like a couple of weeks ago. I'm like, these guys are a Final Four team.
Yeah, they're very good.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying, bro.
Very, very good.
The Big Ten is Michigan State, Illinois, Indiana, Purdue, Oregon, Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Everyone, bro.
Who else?
Indiana.
UCLA. Yeah,
Nebraska.
Michigan.
Nebraska's
Nebraska.
decent.
I mean, Ohio State just beat Purdue last night.
But I just rattled off 10 teams out of the 16 that are all of them. You ask any of their fan bases, we're an NCAA team right now.
Yeah.
And then you probably got another 2 that are like, we'll see how the season goes, but we're on the bubble.
All right, we are switching over to talking tweets. Recently in a podcast, which I believe was Amon-Ra St. Brown's podcast, Caleb Williams goes on record saying that after Lincoln Riley decided to leave Oklahoma and him to go to USC, Caleb Williams actually thought about going to UCLA straight out of spite of Lincoln Riley, but ultimately was won over. Would you guys be pro the nails thing and the dress on the magazine cover if he was a Bruin? I'd be painting my nails.
Yeah.
If we were in a Rose Bowl.
Yeah, I would have been fine with it if we were in the Rose Bowl.
He didn't win a Rose Bowl. So
no. No, I'm joking. Yeah, I would have been fine with it if we had a Heisman winning quarterback.
You just said that because you don't want to get canceled. You're like, I personally think it's pretty sweet.
My nails are painted right now.
What do you mean, dude? Why do you think we got to cut this at 7? I got to get to the salon.
Exactly. We got many petties.
But that is interesting, though. I wonder if he was just saying that for content, or if that was actually close to. Because I don't remember any reports of Caleb Williams coming to UCLA.
He said, "quote I took a visit at UCLA, and it was down to USC and UCLA at the end." He says he did everything. I guess you got to ask Chip.
You know what's so fucked up?
I call cap.
I love DTR. If Caleb Williams was on that 2022 team, that's a Rose Bowl.
Yeah, dude. We were thinking Rose Bowl halfway through the season there, 5-0.
Yeah, Arizona had something to say about that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I don't want. Let's not open that Pandora's box on this episode.
We'll be going until 8 p.m.
If you could see my fucking face right now talking about that Arizona game. Anyways.
But yeah, would you have wanted? I mean, that's a stupid question.
Would I have wanted him?
Yeah, it's a stupid question.
Yeah, I would have wanted. I would have wanted Caleb Williams, a Heisman winner, playing quarterback at UCLA. Crucify me. Oh, all right.
I do want to really quickly shout out UCLA women's basketball.
Yep.
What are they now? Like 17, 18-0, 16 consecutive weeks as a consensus number one.
And they've seen the Statue of Liberty just as many times as men's.
Exactly. They're there now, as a matter of fact. But yeah, consensus number one, undefeated, beating every team by double digits. They've beat top 10 teams by double digits. They've beat top 2 teams by double digits. So they got a big game against Ohio State coming up in a couple weeks at Pauley. So I guess go out and support them, because if we have a basketball team that's going to win an Addy, it's going to be the women. So
go ahead.
I was just going to say, interesting quote from Corey Close. I think it was a couple days ago. A reporter asked her the exact same thing that someone asked Mick about the travel, and she was like, we just show up, play ball, and we don't really think about that stuff. I just thought it was interesting. I wonder if
she's the number one team in the country.
Presser.
Yeah.
You
She doesn't really have
much.
She doesn't really have much to complain about, given her team doesn't lose. But I love Corey Close, and I admire her not like causing a shitstorm about things. But I'd prefer Mick's response all day long.
Yeah,
I love a coach that's willing to just fucking say, no, this is bullshit.
Given the situations of each of them with where their teams were at the time, it makes sense for both of those responses. I want to shout out Lauren Betts, who's averaging a double-double right now at 20 and 10, who is one of the front runners to be the Wooden Award.
Any relation to Mookie?
No.
Oh, that would be cool.
I don't know.
It would be
but
sick.
I see her dad on X sometimes, and he's a Tottenham fan, so I like that guy.
Oh, there you go.
All right, we got to get him to follow the SBS Twitter account because that John is struggling. All right, I think that's all we've got.
Yep.
Thanks again for tuning in. Sorry for the extended hiatus once again, but we promise to be giving you all of the best UCLA podcast content for the rest of this basketball season and beyond. So keep tuning in. We'll catch you next week, recapping the Washington game and previewing the Trojans. Alrighty. Cool, guys.
Cool.
Go Bruins, guys.
Go Bruins. Talk to you later.